Okay. So again, good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Cordell McGarry, Department of Procurement Services. I'm the Senior Certification Officer. In the back is my Associate Regents, who's also a Senior Certification Officer. We're here to talk about the Professional Declaration of Eligibility program. And basically, just to kind of give it to you in a nutshell, it's, we consider it a rather innovative way to allow qualified attorneys and certified public accountants to help us in the review and verification of applicants for certification in our MBE as a minority-owned business or woman-owned business with the City of Chicago. So in this process, we basically, engage you, or we get your assistance in helping that we meet the requirements. That we'll talk about the requirements in the program. So basically, the program guidelines for eligibility are found in the regulations governing certification of minority and women-owned business enterprises, veteran-owned business enterprises, and business enterprises owned and operated by people with disabilities for non-construction contracts. That's a lot, right? The regulation guidelines can be found at our website, as you can see on the screen in front of you. For those of you that are here, if you want to give me your cards, I'll try to make sure that we can email you a copy of those regulations. So basically, in this process, we're looking at getting your assistance in doing a full review of our online application. So basically, you're going to do that which is prepared by the applicant. And the process will also involve you doing a site visit to the company headquarters to do an interview, the preparation of a summary report. And after you've gone through the review process, assuming that you're going to recommend approval, you will also attest to that fact by with your credentials as a licensed professional CPA or attorney. So the eligibility in the process in the program for this particular aspect of the program involves firms that are non-construction or non-supplier distributors. Suppliers or construction firms are governed under a separate group of regulations that wouldn't be eligible for this particular process. We look at firms that have not been denied with the City of Chicago within the past 3 years. Likewise, they have not applied for certification and withdrew that certification application within the last 3 years, or graduated from the program within the last 3 years. Graduation basically refers to a firm exceeding the size standard. Businesses are certified on the basis of size as well as, let's say, minority or woman eligibility, as well as in the particular area of certification or skill sets that they're involved in. So basically, once you've completed the file review and submitted it to the city, we do a cursory review within 10 business days and issue a final decision. And that's the advantage of the program itself for the applicant, because our regular processing time frame is normally average between, let's say, 60 to 90 days. So before a decision is rendered, your involvement in the program can reduce that time significantly, because by the time we get it, you've already done the basic work, and then we can probably do a cursory review, and within 10 days, firm generally will affirm your decision. So what happens next? The application process involves completing, again, an electronic application, providing supporting documentation, which is normally going to consist of things like tax returns, information regarding the business, etc. You're going to do a site report, a site visit, and a summary report. And after you've completed that, you're also going to attest that the information is correct. So again, once a decision is issued, follow the initial review, which is that 10-day period I referred to. The file will be subject to a full scope audit. That full scope audit normally takes place within a year after the initial certification. So what we're talking about at that time is that we will come back, let's say within a year, and do a full-blown review to make sure that the decision was appropriate. Firms that are certified by the City of Chicago as an MBE or WBE generally are certified based upon their eligibility by gender or race. They're also certified under the basis of having a particular skill set, in other words, and their ability to manage that particular skill set, such as, let's say, for example, accountants are certified on the basis of their ability to perform that service. And once you're certified for a period of 5 years. During that 5-year period, you're submitting what we call annual affidavits attesting that there's been no change in circumstances that would affect your ownership. The no change affidavits are generally done by the business itself, as you're generally not involved in that process after certification. Let's see. So again, the licensed professional requirements You need to be an attorney or a CPA, licensed in the state of Illinois for at least a 3-year period. You should not have been involved or convicted or found liable of fraud or making false statements, and you should not have ownership, interest, or familiar relationship with the firm that you're involved with. Okay, we do not certify or endorse CPAs or attorneys to prepare applications for those vendors seeking certification with the City of Chicago. In other words, we have no, let's say, preference as to basically an attorney or a particular accountant. So if we get calls from vendors that are asking us to make referrals, we will not do that. Okay, so let's get into the application process. So the online application process I referred to as well is found at www.chicago.mwdbe.com. That's a little incorrect there. But we basically will involve you completing an online application. Required documents that will be submitted with the application generally will involve information regarding the business itself, resumes of the owners, tax returns, financial information regarding the business itself, information relative to the type of business that is organized under. So, for example, if you're a corporation, you're providing information regarding the corporate documents. If you're LLC, you're providing an operating agreement, that sort of stuff. You're going to submit the declaration of affidavit with the electronic application, and that's the attestation form you may have referred to earlier. And all this information is available on our C2 compliance system, which stands for Certification and Compliance. And again, that's www.chicago.mwdbe.com. Okay, the type of information that we're looking for will be, of course, contact information regarding the business, its location and the like, the type of certification that's being sought. It could be MBE or WBE, or actually both, depending on whether or not the individual will qualify. Ownership information, again, relative to the type of structure of ownership. Information regarding the employees, its operating facilities, the financial information I've referenced before, which would include personal and corporate tax returns, and any applicable licenses that may be required for the business to operate. We look for resumes to help document experience, any association with professional associations, like, let's say, again, using accountants as a guideline, maybe a CPA association or a bar group association. Listing of equipment that may be used in the business, any leases or contracts that would be involved with respect to the business operations itself. For contract information, again, we look for information pertaining to the business involvement and the activity they're seeking to be certified in. It helps us to understand basically their role in the performance and what it is they're actually doing. We prefer that the contract information be within the last couple of years and could be supplemented by invoice or purchase orders. Other documentation, which we use, is these information can be found on our website. We refer to them as Attachment 1, the individual statement of ownership. It helps to organize the information regarding the owner itself. Again, we'll basically ask for information such as the type of ownership, any other affiliations or associations that the individual may have, the individual's equity interest in the business itself. That sort of information is generally contained in Attachment 1. Attachment 4 is needed in the event that the individual has a need to demonstrate that they're a member of a group deemed to be socially disadvantaged. The MBE program basically, for example, identifies as eligible individuals, minorities to be, let's say, African American or Black, Asian, Pacific Asian, Hispanic, American Indian would be examples of that. In the case that an individual does not meet any of those particular elements of criteria of eligibility, they can file for an affidavit of social disadvantage to be considered on a case-by-case basis. Attachment 5 would be what's called the IRS Form 4506T. It's generally a request for transcript of tax return. We ask that you provide the tax information at the time you submit the application. We ask for this form in case there's a need to verify information on the tax return itself. And of course, information is downloadable on our website. We also, in certain aspects, will request a personal net worth statement. For the most part, as non-construction firms, this is not a required document, so it's not one that we would probably look for. In some instances, we may ask for it, and in any event that we do, it's available for it to be downloaded. Once you've done pretty much your due diligence in the review of the application and recommendation for certification, it comes to our office. We then, in 10 days, will affirm that decision, and the firm is certified. Again, I mentioned earlier, within the course of a year, our goal is to do a full review or full audit of the certification that was made. And again, it's to pretty much affirm that the decision of the professional met our guidelines and regulations. And we will do 100% of the files that's been submitted within the course of a year. In the event that there were errors or circumstances that were not consistent with our regulations, that firm can be subject to being decertified. Which brings me to this part. There are penalties. Is not a good word, but there are consequences for having errors or committing errors in the course of this review. So again, I refer you to our regulations. They're important that you understand them. If there are any questions while you're doing this, you can always contact our office. We'll help and guide you through this. Errors do occur, though, and let's look at it for the standpoint they do. We have two classes of errors: technical errors that are not intentional, and in cases like this, these errors would not generally affect the certification outcome. A typical example could be perhaps tax return not being signed by the owner. I mean, that's something we do require signed documents. In a case like that, it may not affect the application, the outcome. We try to provide you with, the first instance, maybe providing you with a nudge. Hey guys, let's be careful next time. The second strike may be a requirement for additional training, where we'll actually try to work with you to make sure you understand the regulations. The third strike could involve losing eligibility for participation in the program. The intentional errors. Well, no one's going to do that, right? But in the event there are errors that were done, let's say intentionally to influence certification, you will lose eligibility for participation in the program. Substantive errors, basically, it would be errors that did affect the certification outcome. And these could be, they could result in perhaps a recommendation for approval, resulting in a denial. Let's see, I had an instance once where, let's see, a couple applied for certification. The male was the former, was 100% owner of the business. Sometime down the road, he sold 51% interest to a member, a female, but he sold the interest for an amount quite less or quite under the value of the company. After doing the review, it was clear that that was done for purposes of influencing certification as a woman-owned business. This was something that should have been picked up at the time of review. It was determined that the individual that was involved in the process was aware of it, but assuming they let it go. Okay, something like that affected the outcome. The firm was denied. And in this particular case, if a first strike, it would require adopting a compliance integrity agreement, which is basically an agreement where you're looking at, again, just attesting to the fact that you made an error and you will endeavor not to do another one. Second strike, it can be barred from the program. And again, if it results in decertification, that will also be issued as well. In a worst case scenario, again, you could lose your eligibility. Additional penalties, if they would need to, could also involve, I guess, basically matters being referred to our Inspector General's office for investigation. Some matters could be referred to the State Licensing Board for discipline, and also referred to our Corporation Counsel for prosecution in the event that it gets that serious, but we're never going to see that, right? No. Okay. But there's always a method to help, and as I indicated earlier, as you're going through the process, you can always contact our office. Our number is 312-744-4900. We have a team of certification professionals that are available to help all those who inquire about certification. And most certainly, we would be more than happy to help you understand the regs, or to provide you with assistance where needed. Okay. And of course, for those that are maybe comfortable with going to our sister agencies, we do have several chambers of commerce that are also involved in the certification program. There are several that I'm aware of. Let's say HACIA, the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, the Chatham Business Association. Those are several groups that are involved with certification, and they can also provide assistance, but feel free to contact our office if you have any questions. Okay, so hurdles to the application process. These are the things that we run into, no doubt you will too. Incomplete applications, site visits, and summary recommendation reports. These things will basically slow down the processing time. We endeavor to render a decision within 10 days after we receive your information, but in the event that the application may be incomplete or perhaps doesn't provide enough detail, that can extend that process. So lack of details, lack of specifics are basically, again, some of the things that we have run into. I personally encourage everybody that I encounter that's involved in the process to tell the story. I ask the applicants, when you apply for certification, tell the story. I talk to the professionals that are involved in the process, tell the story. Our own staff, we say tell the story. It's important that we understand basically what it is we're being asked to do in the way of making a recommendation. The incorrect type of application that's submitted. I had an instance once where a firm was involved in construction, and the professional that was involved in the application didn't recognize it as a construction company and went through the process. We had to return the application that wasn't the proper one. Failure to respond to timely requests for information. In the event that any of this information is incomplete or there's maybe a question we may have, we'll try to reach out to you. We'll generally try to call you first, just to kind of chat. In the event we can't, we'll send you an email or what we call a Q&A, where you'll be given so many days to respond. In the event that you don't respond, the file can be closed. Okay. The no payment received basically refers to the application fee that's required for the MBE and WBE certification. That application fee is $250. Basically what happens in this particular case is you'll submit the application electronically. We will receive it. If the information is complete, we will then invoice the client, your client. Your client then will then remit payment to the city, and then the file is then assigned for that review, that 10-day review. Okay, and that's it for that. We have a variety of workshops that we do throughout the year, basically on how to get certified, how to do business with the city of Chicago. We have a number of certification programs. In addition to the two that we talked about today, we also have those two for construction businesses. We have a certification for veteran-owned businesses, businesses with people with disabilities. We have federal programs that are for disadvantaged business enterprises, as well as those that are seeking to be certified at the airport. Just feel free. We're here to help, basically what I'm trying to say. Okay. So with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation, and I'll be able to entertain any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
And just so that you know, inside of those reviews that I gave you the packet, we have those cards of certification, those small cards that you have to check that have that information.
Okay.
We offer those packages. You can always go online.
Okay. I think we have a question here, Jackie.
So, my question is specifically related to how you become certified to review. Is there a specific, do you go through the same process you're going to be reviewing, or is it just, I'm an attorney or I'm a licensed CPA, and so now I'm eligible to review this on behalf of my client?
Okay, so again, no, there isn't any class or any certification that you have to go through to be able to do this. We rely upon your expertise in your profession as a certified public accountant or attorney. Again, we ask that you have been a practicing attorney or CPA for at least a 3-year period. We, again, talk about the regulations. That's the most important aspect for you to understand how the program works. And again, I thought I could bring a couple of copies down, but I wasn't able to do that. I do have my card. If you don't, if you give me your information, I will be happy to email you a copy of the regulations. They can also be found on our website as well for non-construction firms.
And so on the application, if I have a company and I've reviewed their application, are they checking off that this has been reviewed by, how do you know once the application comes to you that it's already?
Okay, well, when you submit the application, you're going to submit a certification summary, where you've provided a summary of your review of the firm itself, basically talking about the criteria for certification, telling the story about the firm and why they would qualify for certification. You also have an attestation form that you're going to check off. And when you submit the application, it's going to be submitted to us electronically. So we'll receive the application as well as, it'll be just like any other application that we receive in our own system. Mm-hmm. So we do have a checklist if we need to review the application itself more thoroughly.
Okay.
Just as an FYI, if you didn't sign the sign-in sheet with your email address, please do, then we can turn that over to you and you can just email them all.
Okay, fine.
Everybody, we can make sure that you get the information versus having to wait for ours.
Okay, Cordell, I just wanted to, I don't know if you addressed this in the affidavit. We're requesting that the reviewers include their email address and their phone number so we can contact you as a preparer directly, because since you're submitting it on behalf of your client, we would like to go through you first, because we might have additional questions. That's all.
No, that's a very good point. I mean, we do from time to time, after we've reviewed the application, we do have a question. The applicant is your client, so we much rather talk to you regarding your information that you prepared and reviewed to seek clarification. So we would like to reach out to you. So on the attestation form, for example, it does provide information about the attorney, if they're representing a firm, about the firm. But in some cases, we've seen it where it doesn't, we may not have an email address for the attorney, or we may not have a direct phone number for the attorney. So now we have to kind of search. And we'll, so it does help if you can provide us that information.
Or they can be set up as a user on their account.
Yes, exactly, yeah. In our certification and compliance system, we have a process where the applicant can go in and put the application in, as online application in, and complete all the documents. We strongly suggest that if you're working with that client, that you has to be added as a user. That allows you to be involved in the process of making sure that the application is complete online, as well as making sure that documents are attached. And in the event that we do have to get to you, we can go right to the user and communicate with you that way.
Any additional questions?
Well, we encourage you, to go out there and help us out. Yes, I mean, if there are any questions, please feel free to give us a call. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
I was curious, are you